Welcome back to another episode of Ruthless TV, where I review Tyler Perry's The Oval scene by scene. Now, let's get into the video. The scene opens with Richard crawling and coughing, getting out of the truck, and he's telling Dale to help Sharon to get out, but it looks like Dale may need some help of his own. But as soon as they get her away from the truck explodes, and then Richard tells Dale to call 911, and Dale is just saying, I want to lay down, my head hurts. But then he does manage to call 911. He tells him that they're on Highway 62 and that there's been an accident and that they were hurt pretty bad. Mind you, it seems like Richard should still be healing from when he got shot, right? Then he got the stew beat out of him by Sam in his front yard. Now Richard is too bionic. He's just like Max and Bobby. But the main thing is they all made it out alive. Then we move on to scene number 2, where we see Victoria entering Alan's office, and she's asking him what his name is. Of course, she doesn't remember his name. Victoria tells him that he needs to come with her, and he says, well, no, I have to man the phones. I have to stay here. And she said, get your balls out of the drawer and put them on and come with me. So they go down to wait on the motorcade to arrive, and Alonzo is asking if he can help, and she goes, no. Can a girl surprise her husband? She then tells Alan to stand up straight, pull his shoulders back, and to look like a boss. Then the motorcade arrives, and Victoria and Hunter are doing what they do best, being fake. She's introducing Hunter to Alan, and apparently she's not aware that they've already met. She then greets Ellie and thanks her for accompanying Hunter on their trip. Then she tells her to smile and show her pretty teeth. She said, smile, you dumb witch. Then she told them all to join her in the Oval. And of course, Donald wants to go too, but Victoria tells him that it's not necessary. So once they arrive in the Oval, Donald wants to know, what the F are you doing? And just to generalize things here, Victoria wanted to put Alan on game, and just to let him know that the president and Ellie were huffing. She wanted Alan to admit that he walked in on them, but Alan told her that he didn't know what she was talking about. So then she says, oh, well, I'll just ask Ellie. And then Ellie told her that her line of questioning was inappropriate. Then Victoria says, oh, do y'all hear how this witch is chopping up syllables? Those are big words for her. She said that every time Ellie opens her mouth, that dumb and ducks fall out. Well, you know, of course she didn't say ducks, but I hope y'all can read between the lines. Then, of course, this line of questioning is kind of making Hunter feel a little bit uncomfortable, so he tells them that they can leave. But Victoria says no, they need to stay. She wants Hunter to admit that he was having an affair with her. Then, of course, he doesn't have any shame. He admits to the affair and says that he did it because Alan couldn't please her. Then Victoria is asking Hunter if he can see the hurt and the pain in Alan's eyes, and he was like, I don't care. Look at her rack. He is the most disrespectful person of authority that I've ever seen. Then they begin to walk out, and then Victoria is telling Alan that he needs to handle her and to remember that she told him to choke that bee. So while she was ranting and raving as they were leaving, Donald stops her in the hallway to let her know that her father is on the line and he wants to speak to her and Hunter. So Donald had them to transfer the call to them, and he was telling Victoria that he was very disappointed that she hadn't called him since her mom died. Victoria said that she thought that that's what he wanted because of his privacy. Then he goes on to tell them that he's dying and that he needs to see them. Then here comes Hunter with the brush off. He's telling her father that he's not going to be available and that he won't be able to make it. And her dad was like, you don't have anything to do, just like you haven't done anything while you were in office. So he wasn't accepting the brush off, and he basically told them that they needed to be there. And Victoria wanted to know exactly where he was, but then he hung up the phone. But Donald told her that he was in the house in Virginia. Then we move on to scene number 4 at the hospital with Sharon, and they're, wheeling her on in as if there's no urgency at all. Richard tells Dale to fill out the paperwork for Sharon, and Dale is desperately trying to tell him that he doesn't know anything about Sharon. And then Richard says, well, who does? And he says, your wife. She knows everything about her. Then Richard says, you call her. He's talking to Dale all rough, and Dale is a little hesitant to get on the phone to call her because he doesn't even know Nancy. Dale was acting like he had to call his mom from school after he peed in his pants. He was very nervous to call her, but he did reach Nancy and he let her know what was going on, and then Nancy said that she's on her way to the hospital. Then we move on to the next scene with Ellie and Alan, And I just really wish these two would just go ahead and call it quits. Clearly she doesn't care anything about him, and this is what she's telling him, and he's like, well, you don't love me anymore. And she said, you know, I've been trying to tell you this all along. And she said, you're gonna make me change the locks. And she doesn't want Alan to touch her, and he's like, well, you know, so you only want him to touch you, right? Then he begins to pull on her and poke on her, and, you know, just rubbing her arm, threatening her. And she said, you know, I could ruin you right now if I were to yell. And he was like, you know, you're not gonna ruin me. And he's just continuing with these threats, and, you know, straight up, Alan is a punk, period. Then we move on to the next scene, scene number 6, where we see Sam entering his office, and he goes over to his desk in the corner. And as soon as he's logging in, we also see Kyle walking down the hallway, and he's noticing that Sam is connecting to a secure network. And of course, he's getting the Donald on the line, and he's letting Donald know what's going on. And Donald said, you know what, you handle it, but no more bloodshed, because things are getting way out of hand. Then Alonzo enters the office, and he wants to talk to Sam. He's asking Sam if he wants to grab a coffee, and then Sam is like, you know, we can stay in here, so what's up? And Alonzo is, you know, gesturing that he really doesn't want anyone else to hear the conversation. So then Sam excuses broke neck Ben over there. I call him broke neck Ben because it looks like he doesn't have a neck. I don't know, maybe it was just the way that he got up or something. So Alonzo goes on to share with Sam about his suspicions of Jean and her death. And Sam tells him, you know, not to speak to anyone else and to make sure that he keeps that under wraps. Then in walks Killer Kyle, and he says that he wants to talk to both Sam and Alonzo. Sam is telling Kyle that he's already excused Alonzo to go home. And Alonzo stays, and then he's questioning them about the 911 tapes. Kyle knows that he sent Alonzo to pick up the tapes originally, and then he said that he also talked to Agent Smith, and Agent Smith doesn't have the tapes either. So of course Sam, you know, he steps up to the plate and says, you know, I have the tapes. And I really like Sam in this moment because he's not backing down from Kyle. He's like, yeah, what? I got him. And then Sam kind of turns the tables, and he says, you know, why are you asking about the tapes? Why are you so invested in knowing where the tapes are? Then Kyle tells him, well, you know, sir, it's so much higher than you. And Sam lets him know that he thinks that she died at the hands of their corrupt system. Of course, Kyle is remaining tight-lipped, and Sam suspended him. I'm so glad he did this, because all throughout this season, no one has stood up to Kyle. No one. And Sam ain't having it. He's like, I'm your boss, bro. And look, you either gonna tell me what's going on or you won't be at work for 2 weeks. And that's exactly what happened. So Kyle is suspended, and hopefully he will be out of the picture and out of the way for the next couple of episodes. So then Sam returns back to his desk, and he realizes that his access has been blocked. End scene. Then we move on to scene number 7, and Donald is at home now, and he goes in, you know, he's winding down, he's got his drink in his hand, and he walks in on Lily, and Lily is playing dress up with her mannequins and her designs. She wants to know why Donald is up there in the main bedroom, because she, you know, ordered him not to come up there, and she let him know that she ordered the staff to put his things in the guest room, and he was a little upset by that because he doesn't want the staff to know that they're having problems. And Donald is leaving her panties in their sheets, you know, as if they're doing something. And I think that Lily is a little bit tired of, you know, being his beard and pretending all the time. And guys, this is probably the most realist conversation in the entire episode. And then she gives Donald this scenario of an openly gay man running for president and doing well, and she's basically asking him, why don't you just come out? And then he tells her that America is not ready for his lifestyle. She wants him to just come out and be happy with who he is. And then Donald tells her, I don't know any great people who are happy. Then he basically poses the same exact question for her and asks her, why is she still in the situation of them being married? And Lily just straight up told him, look, I'm here to get all I can because, you know, you pretended to be in love with me and she really didn't deserve that. And then Donald tells her that he didn't pretend to love her, that he actually loved her more than anything. And then Lily doesn't want to hear it. She's like, oh, yeah, whatever. And then he goes, well, I know that you're upset over your boyfriend, you know, being blown up and everything, but I hired him. He let Lily know that Bobby was supposed to have sex with her and that's it, and basically send the pictures back to him so that he can use those as leverage in a divorce. He showed the photos to her and then told her that she was nasty for having sex in the airport bathroom. Then we move on to the scene with General Martin and Priscilla, and Priscilla is basically letting him know that they had a maid at the White House who was killed, and she knows that her boyfriend didn't do it. She tells him that she was indeed killed there, and and that they were trying to cover it up. Then she gives him the envelope that Diane left for her to give to Sam, and he wants to know why isn't she giving the envelope to Sam. Then she goes on to let him know that they were having problems in their marriage and that Sam was having an affair with the first lady. He told Priscilla that he would definitely look into it and that he needed to be cautious as to who he talked to about it. He told Priscilla that he would see what he could do, but he actually needed her to stay on the inside. And she was letting him know that she wanted to quit and get a divorce and whoop the first lady's sass. Period. He told her that he had love for her, and she said that she loved him too, and then she saw him out. Then we move on to Bobby, Blakely, and Max. And then Bobby has Ben Davenport on his phone in a photo. I guess it's a photo of he and Blakely. And he's asking Blakely who he is. And then she tells him that that's Ben Davenport, and he's a former CIA guy. Then Bobby wants to know if they can trust him, and Blakely says yes, we can trust him, and she's a little hesitant to say anything to Bobby because she doesn't trust Bobby at all whatsoever. So they're going back and forth, but then of course Max intervenes. Then he wants to know what information Blakely had. Clearly she's working with the general, and she tells them about Priscilla and Sam. She says that they're covering their tracks pretty well, and then she also says that Bobby is not checking out. She says that she wants Bobby out of there by the morning because she doesn't know who he is. She tells Max that there were 4 years of Bobby's life that are unaccounted for, but Bobby tells her, look, I was in Moscow. And he lets her know that he's basically more legit than she is. Then Max comes out of the room, and Blakely is standing by the door ear hustling. She doesn't trust Bobby at all. Max tells her that Bobby is solid. She says that Max's judgment has not been the best lately. But Max knows that she's basically testing Bobby. Then she gives him this girlish giggle and then tells him to come on down the hallway for some playtime. This house looks really spooky, you guys. Does it look spooky to y'all? It looks a little spooky to me. But she better leave Bobby alone. I wouldn't be messing with Bobby. Bobby looks a little strong by the arms, right? Don't you think? Then we move on to scene number 11, where Nancy is arriving at the hospital, and Dale is asking her to please fill out the paperwork for Sharon. Nancy is asking him if everyone is all right, and she's wondering why they didn't call the police. And Dale tells her, because your husband didn't want me to. And she's like, Richard? So Richard was with you guys. And she was like, well, why was Richard in the car? And he, Dale just started spilling all the tea. He was like, he wanted to know where the compound was. So I was riding with him to show him where the compound was. So he told her what happened, and then Kareem arrives. He's sprinting down the hallways of the hospital, rushing in to see what's going on. But before this, Nancy asked Dale if Richard was okay. She wanted to make sure that he wasn't, hurt up and admitted to the hospital. Then he tells Kareem that Sharon is in with the doctors, and Nancy is asking him if Sharon had insurance, and he told her no. Then he goes over to the nurse, and he wants to know if he can go in to see what's going on or to talk to the doctor, and then he started yelling at the nurse. Then he's asking Nancy if she's Barry's mom, and she said yeah. And he said, we're good, we don't need your help. And then Nancy got him all the way together. She was like, who the F you think you're talking to? No, she didn't say that. I would have said that. But she said, who do you think you're talking to? Nancy was like, don't get your balls all up in a bunch now, little boy. So he said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. But Nancy just let him know, I'm here to help and I'm not leaving. Then Nancy leaves the hospital and she makes it home. And it's, again, just like we expected before, you guys. I've already done a video on this last and final scene, but I'll redo it again. But anyway, she gets out of her car and walks through the kitchen to the dining room. And she finds Barry in there stretched out on the dining room table in all of his flowered glory. Of course, they pull those flowers directly from Mother Elder's garden, okay? And of course, this is shocking Nancy, and she's scared, and she starts screaming for Barry to wake up or whatever. She's like, Barry, Barry. But Barry is heavily under the influence of that PCP stuff. Whatever dust they're blowing in the guest's face, that's what he's under right now. He can't move. It's either that or he's had some of Elder Mother's muffins. This concludes season 2, episode 18, Misunderstood. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Ruthless TV, you guys. I really, really appreciate the likes, the comments, the shares, the subscriptions. It really means a lot. So stick around, you guys. I'm going to be doing a giveaway really, really soon. With that being said, I'll see you on the next one.